Listeners, I have big news. I wanted to let you know that I have launched the Golf Guru app, and it's in the Apple App Store this week. I'm very excited about the opportunity to create an unparalleled online academy experience for my students, whether they see me consistently in person or not consistently enough, or for those new students who aren't local but want an affordable and an effective online training experience. So let's talk about what the app will include. First, the app will have a Facebook-like forum where I'll be sharing more than ever from my day-to-day experiences with students and other top teaching colleagues. In addition, the Golf Guru app subscribers will be able to share their thoughts, experiences, and questions. I'll also provide access to my library of lessons and drills, which will be added over time, all easily filterable and watchable anytime, anywhere. And the cool thing is students can also film, save, and categorize their lessons and their swings in the Golf Guru app. Lastly, app subscribers will receive a personal one-on-one lesson with me once per month, which can include swing analysis, prescriptive drills, and on-course performance tracking, thanks to my app partner, Swing U, the industry's #1 golf GPS and scorecard app, as well as the owner of the most comprehensive and engaging app platform in the world for golf instructors, clubs, and academies. I am super excited about this, so go check it out. Go to your app store, download the app, and I will see you on the other side where I help you with your golf game. Now let's get to this week's episode.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
But it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, aka the Guru. I took a little break, but now I'm back, and I'm very excited to have some outstanding guests lined up for you. So thank you so much for the support, and if you are listening to this, make sure you download the episode and all the previous episodes, and that you hit the purple subscribe button, as that is very important to the success of this podcast. On this week's show, I have my good friend Tim Cooke. Tim is the Director of Instruction at the Sea Pines Resort Golf Academy on Hilton Head Island. Tim is a Golf Magazine Top 100 instructor and was the 2014 Carolina Section Teacher of the Year and a Top 50 U.S. Kids Teacher, and has been named as one of the best teachers in the state of South Carolina by Golf Digest since 2013. He works with players on the web.com, Latin America, LPGA, and PGA Tour, and just has an outstanding stable of golfers. But what's most impressive is his stable of young elite juniors and college players that he coaches. So I'm very excited to finally get Tim on the show as we discuss a variety of topics, such as using technology, like TrackMan, SwingCat, and we have an in-depth discussion on how we both like to see our players use the ground, and some valuable coaching ideas that he uses to test and challenge his players, as well as much more life lessons and best practices for young coaches and anyone who wants to become a better version of themselves, which is why we're all here, right? So without further delay, I hope you enjoy this awesome conversation with my good friend, Mr. Tim Cooke. Enjoy. All right, Tim Cooke, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm super excited to have you on the Golf Guru Show. How you doing?
Doing great, and thank you for having me. So, we've tried for a while, and I'll blame you. I mean, it was clearly your schedule was too tough.
Absolutely, so. Yeah. There's no doubt that I'm pretty busy, but you've got to be the busiest teaching pro that I've ever met. It was my fault that we had to cancel the first one. Something came up with the family, and I apologize for that. But I'm so glad that we could kind of reconnect, and we've been friends for a while, but we don't get to spend enough time together, especially during the busy season. So I'm excited to kind of chop it up and give the listeners some cool stuff that you've been doing, and also share some of the things that we've learned over the years. So as we come up, we all have our stories and our pathways, and yours is a very interesting one, I think, and it has a lot of sort of meat within your story on your rise to success. So take us back to the beginning and give us a little lineage of kind of how you got into the game and then how you got into coaching.
Absolutely. So it's a long story, so I'll do the quick as possible version.
We got plenty of time. These podcasts are long.
That's true. I'll try,
Don't leave anything out.
All right. So I grew up just outside London, and family moved to the States when I was in high school. So I started playing while I was in England. Soccer or football was my first passion. Growing up over there, I think you don't have a choice in that. So I just loved everything I did was football. And I played a little golf on the side. I started playing golf really because my dad played and my brother played. My brother still is an excellent golfer. So I followed in his footsteps on the golf course, and happy that I did. Played obviously the typical high school golf, junior golf career. I'm relatively tall, so when I moved to the States, the high school I went to threw me a basketball and said, "Hey, learn how to shoot." So I did that too. And honestly, in high school, I kind of flipped one of my sports from soccer to basketball. I love hoops. I really do.
Tell them how tall you are. You're not that short.
No, I'm a little taller than 6'5" when I stand up straight.
That's
so. When I have good posture, I'm probably closer to 6'6". When I'm slouching, closer to 6'5".
Okay.
And so I'm a tall teaching pro. So in high school, it was mainly golf and basketball, to be honest. And probably around 10th grade, I got decent at golf. And then that really became my passion. That took me to University of Virginia, where I played golf there. And we had a super team and met some of my lifetime best friends as teammates there, and went back for a reunion recently. And it's like you don't skip a beat when you get back together with your college teammates. So I had just a great time at Virginia. And in my fourth year at Virginia, I had an extra year of eligibility left. And I was the type of kid who went to a top 10 program like we were, a top 20 program like we were at the time, with aspirations like every single teaching pro who comes on this show says, "I wanted to play."
Yeah, for sure.
Hands up, that's me too.
Yeah.
And then my fourth year, I realized a sense of realism came about me, and I realized that's not happening because I could barely break into the lineup. I'd play like once or twice a year, right, in the tournaments. And I was like, if I can't beat like 4 guys on this team all the time, how the heck am I going to play pro golf?
That's right.
So I had the extra year of eligibility, and I was blessed at Virginia. So at Virginia, there's an incredible sports department with sports psychology being and motor learning. Some incredible people in the academic world. It's in sports psychology, motor learning, exercise physiology. And my assistant coach at the time, a gentleman named Dr. Bob Winters, who is somebody you should have on this podcast, by the way.
There you go. Yeah, very, very well-known sports psychologist.
Right? So I told him, I was like, I want to get into coaching. I just love golf. I taught like a little bit in the summer at like the college camps that a lot of college kids do. Right. And I enjoyed it. So he says, you need to go talk to the pedagogy department. I'm like, what the heck is that? So the quick version of that is that's sport teaching is the best way to describe it.
That was one of my questions. Like when I was looking at your bio, I'm like, what the heck is pedagogy? And it's the method and practice of teaching, especially as an academic subject or theoretical concept. I'm like, well, that's pretty much what we do, right? That's awesome. Like why are not more of us like looking into that?
And there is no question. So I owe Dr. Winters a great amount of thanks, and I'm grateful to him forever because he pointed me in the right direction. And so I went and met with one of the deans in the education school, a lady called Dr. Ann Boyce, who is still at UVA and running the department there. And she says, we can build something for you. So they essentially, I told her, I should back up slightly. Yeah. I had a meeting with her and I said, I want to be a golf coach. What can I do from an academic standpoint to like jumpstart that career. And she said, we can do that. So I took a whole bunch of classes in sports psychology, kinesiology, motor learning, you name it, in that field. I took it, and there's no question it jumpstarted my career. Like I still use stuff that I learned 20 years ago now, today from the motor learning. So it's like, it almost makes me chuckle when like motor learning is becoming a big catchphrase thing in the last like 10 years in golf instruction. I'm like, it's been around forever, people.
Yeah, you're way ahead of it.
So it's great stuff. It's helpful. It's like how to teach, how to deliver, how to give feedback, how to relate to the student. I took one class that was really basically to train, like understand certain keys of, say, like an underhand toss, and how quickly can you recognize those keys. And the test was, and it was multiple things, like how to skip, how to jump, how to throw overhand, how to roll underhand. And the test was that throw up a clip on the TV for 3 seconds, and that was a kid skipping. And you had to like mark down all the keys in 3 seconds. Did they hit the key elements of how to skip? And it was incredible because it taught your eye how to look for important elements. I keep using that word. Sorry. Important elements.
No, it makes sense.
Very quickly. Which in a golf swing is what you do. Like the number of times in a lesson, you're standing on the tee, and you like to take your time and get data, and we can go into all the technology world. Sure. But at a certain point, sometimes you're on the course and you got one shot. Yeah. You're on the course with a really good player, and they hit it. They missed the green in the left bunker. Well, obviously you know what they've done, but on a historical basis. But at the same time, you better be paying attention.
Yeah.
So on some levels, it made you really pay attention to what someone's doing in front of you, and look for things and clues that can lead you down the right road. So it was a really good jump start. I did a couple of internships during that master's degree. One with someone who's been on the show before, John Tattersall.
Yes.
At a place called the Gary Smith Learning Center in Atlanta, Georgia. That was great. And then I also did another internship at Farmington Country Club with Rob McNamara up in Charlottesville, Virginia. So a couple incredible teachers and people, and learned. Just try to soak it all up. So there you go. So there's my, and then fast forward, here I am today.
Yeah, and we'll get into what you're doing now. I think I want to cut back a little bit to Tattersall, because obviously we share him as a mutual friend and mentor as well, and I'm sure you've learned a lot about what you're doing now from him, because he's such an incredible teacher and coach, and and so many other things. Tell us the story about when you almost burnt up his oven, though. I want to hear the full story of that one.
So I'll give you my side of that story. So obviously, keep in mind, I'm like recently graduated, young kid, and he was, for some reason, he agreed. This is before cell phones. Let's keep that in mind.
Yes.
He agreed for me to live in his apartment in Atlanta, Georgia. At that point, he'd never met me before. He just knew that Gary Smith, who was the guy we worked for. Gary said, "Yeah, Tim's great. He's gonna come internship and work with us." So I just showed up, met him here. I just showed up, and so and we, as you said, he's definitely a tremendous friend and mentor now. So occasionally I would cook. It wasn't great because I was 22 years old, out of college, and I thought like if I cooked rice, that was exceptional, right? So I had the great idea, like right before I leave at the end of the summer to go, and I just got a job on Kiowa. So right before I leave, I had this great idea to cook some barbecue chicken in the oven. And it was like drumsticks, basically, what it was.
He said it was chicken wings.
Yeah, and it was like drinking drumsticks. And so I caked on this barbecue sauce, and apparently, like some of it dripped and filled up the bottom of the oven, unbeknownst to me. And the beauty of the story is that I think after I left, maybe a few months later, at the end of the year, he left that apartment and was moving, and so he had to clean the oven, and he cursed me up a storm because I think he was scrubbing the base of that oven for a couple of hours. So yeah, to this day, he hasn't let me live that down, and clearly he likes to tell people about. Yeah. It was a small fire while I was cooking.
Yeah, that was the big thing. You almost burned, I think, the apartment down.
Well, yeah, it was a little light burn. It's I may have left them in there for too long, but I'm much better at cooking those things now.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, that's not gonna be a second career, I guess, anytime soon.
No, it's definitely not. No, definitely not. I Whole Foods make great to-go food, which is what I did on my way home tonight.
There you go.
Prepared food.
So talk a little bit about your family, because apparently you're not the best athlete in the family by a mile, right?
By a long shot. No,
your wife Kara is a very good athlete. And
she is. So Kara played 2 sports at Virginia. She played lacrosse and field hockey, and so we just met at the nick of time. 4th year, 2nd semester, we met, and so she was an All-American and multiple-time All-American in lacrosse, and she also played for the U.S. team for 8 years. So she played on the elite squad for the U.S. team. She played in 2 World Cups. They won 1, lost 1, and she's actually going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame here, the U.S. Lacrosse Hall of Fame here in October.
That's incredible.
So
Congrats!
It's incredible. It is incredible. Cool. So it's the coolest thing. It really is. She is so humble, and she tries not to tell people, but this time she can't get away with it, because when you when you get inducted into the Hall of Fame for your sport and the U.S. Lacrosse Hall of Fame, it doesn't get much bigger. So I'm so happy for her. She's a tremendous athlete and had a lot of success playing lacrosse, and she still coaches on the side a little grassroots here on the island down in Hilton Head. Kind of some little kids to try and get it going down here on the island too. So she's much deserved of being a Hall of Famer. So that puts me way down the totem pole in terms of athletes in the family.
That's awesome. Yeah, and John did say something about when you guys were dating and she was playing out west, that you would get frequent phone calls in the middle of the night because of the time change.
Correct, and again, pre-cell phones, so it's only like a house phone, right? So when she was doing West,
you guys would sound alike a little bit on the phone as well because you have similar accents.
Exactly. At that point, my accent was much thicker than it is right now. So they would often do training camps in Colorado or out west. So sometimes you just forget there was a time change, and we're teaching pros trying to get some sleep over on the East Coast, and she was doing her thing on the West Coast. So yeah, it was all good. So John does not let her forget about that either.
Yeah, he did tell me that story, and he was cracking up. So awesome. So let's get into some coaching stuff. I know you haven't always taught the elite players that you're teaching now, and you left a little bit out there as when you got to Hilton Head. You and your brother Simon started a junior academy, right?
We did. So when I moved to Hilton Head in about 2006 roughly, and honestly, I didn't have any connections. It was I was fortunate to get a job. I worked at Long Cove Club, and I was the first director of instruction there. And honestly, it was a friend of mine who was a sales rep, was meeting with the head pro, Bob Patton, at Long Cove, and he just happened to mention that they were looking for their first ever teaching pro. And 2 weeks later, I was hired. It was just very, very fortunate. And one of the reasons I wanted to move to Hilton Head, honestly, was I just felt like I wanted the opportunity to teach more juniors. And I looked at the area, and you think of Hilton Head as a retirement community. There's still a young population here too. So sure. It was a good opportunity for me to do that. And so one thing led to another, and I got really busy at Long Cove teaching juniors and the membership and doing the kind of standard club director instruction thing. And sometimes I get ahead of myself and I want too much, and I was like, I need to keep growing. So, so my brother and I decided to start like a kind of boutique junior academy. We had anywhere from probably anywhere like from 6 to 12 kids in it, roughly, depending on the year. And so we never went bigger than 12. We purposely didn't want to go bigger than that. And so I had a few years there where I truly had 2 jobs. I was full-time director of instruction at Long Cove, teaching a full schedule there. And then I was renting space with my brother at another facility on the island, a public facility on the island. I was renting teaching space and doing junior academy products there. So it was a really good time because it helped. It did a lot of things from intensive teaching. Like I was teaching more than I could ever hope to. I was probably teaching too much, and to be fair, but there is something to be said for high volume teaching.
Sure.
And you get better quick. You really do. And then the other thing it did, it actually made me after a few years, and it was a really successful program. Like it did great. Like we had kids every kid got better. Right? I can honestly say that.
That's awesome.
I know every single kid who went through that program got better. Like every kid who did that academy program, if they wanted to play in college golf, they could get there. So it was hitting all the goals. And and then I had the opportunity to move to Sea Pines, and I was able to like merge those two worlds. So I could bring this small little junior academy into the Sea Pines in a high-end resort setting, and it worked like a charm. It really does. So Sea Pines is phenomenal. They're really good to me. Like it's a big operation. There's 5 full-time teachers, including myself. We have a sports psychologist on staff as well. And that's just out of this little building on the driving range at the Plantation Club. And we kind of cover it all from like club fitting juniors, but the ability to move from Long Cove to Sea Pines allowed me to kind of just be in one place, not 2, which is really good.
Sure.
And after, honestly, every year, like I evolve that golf prep, that junior academy program. I evolved it every year. Like I'd sit back and say, how can I do this better? How can I do it better? And honestly, the beauty of doing that program, and as successful as it was, I realized that the kids who I taught purely one-on-one, like in meaning from an instruction standpoint, like technical instruction on the range.
Sure.
I taught them one-on-one. They overall outperformed if I was teaching 2 or 3 kids in a group.
Makes sense, yeah.
Every single time. And so now I still kind of have an academy program, but it's individual lessons outside of when I go on course. And if I do on course, sometimes it's individual, sometimes it's with a group setting to create games and a little competition between players, whether it's like putting a tour player with a junior or like a college kid, whomever it may be, just making them uncomfortable. I like on course for that setting. But I just selfishly, I get better results in individual instruction on the driving range. So that's what I do now.
And I think that's where we're so much alike, because I mean, there is a lot going around with some awesome stuff that other coaches are doing, the game-like training guys and creating uncomfortability. And I believe in all that, but you kind of go back to what you know works. Right. And I know it sounds like, how many of those guys or the kids that you coached early on have come up through the ranks and now are playing college golf and now professional golf? I mean, you've done it the right way. There's got to be so many of those kids that kind of stayed with you, because you've got an incredible stable right now of kids in college.
I'm very fortunate. I really am. So there's a high number. There really is. So from this little island on Hilton Head, we're pushing 100. There's about 100 kids who have gone on to college. And then from that, it's parlayed into, what's interesting, Jason, is it's actually, I would say, in the last just couple years, I've actually, now we're at that point, because it's been here since 2006, right? It's 19 now. We're actually, the last couple years at that point where those kids who are in college are now turning pro, and so it's a lot of fun. it's a lot of fun to see their journey from from 12, 13, 14-year-old kid to going out and playing for a living.
Yeah.
And as it also, because of like a little success, I have gained more college kids.
Yeah,
so
you get word of mouth travels.
Word of mouth is strong, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I would actually say I probably have more college players than I do juniors players now.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
There's only so much time in the day.
Right.
And so summer is a really busy time for me because, as you know, the college season, they don't live here.
Right.
So in a college player in the college season, I'll typically see them Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe one other time, and in the spring, maybe once during the spring season. And then there's some like FaceTime lessons. Use Coach Now app immensely. I use that so much for to supplement sessions, and then just try and cultivate good relationships with college coaches. That's important.
Yeah, that was my next question, is how do you manage all those players, and then when they go to school, how do you keep in touch with them?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. I use a lot of text messages. I use Coach Now a little bit, but I like the FaceTime. I think is probably underrated. That could be very helpful.
It's huge. It's like, it's FaceTime's great. It's really easy. The coach can hold the phone. They can just put it on a tripod.
Right.
And then there is a certain with a FaceTime lesson. It's not as good as like hands on, right?
Sure.
But you do get a feel of the player's demeanor and body language, so you can read that in a FaceTime lesson. Whereas if it's just a video, say FaceTime down the line, and a quick text, you really don't get a feel for body language, and that's an important part, as you know. That's an important part of coaching.
Yeah,
reading the person counts.
Absolutely. Do you charge for that, like extra, or is that just something you do like as part of the lesson fee or the relationship?
With college players, like any like extra stuff like that, I don't charge for it. Yeah. It's just part of. I wrap it into packet, like just their basic lesson fee packages.
Gotcha.
I do have a fee for FaceTime lessons, because as soon as you go FaceTime lesson, that is, I only have my time, and you only have your time, right? So
yeah, exactly.
And every teaching pro listening to this, that's how you pay your bills. So if you give a FaceTime lesson, you're generally having to block time on your schedule.
Sure.
To set it up. So when it's a true FaceTime lesson, then yes, I will charge for that.
Gotcha.
But if it's like updates, Coach Now stuff, if they just send me a couple of videos, then it's just part of your regular fee, and that it'll work. Let's just say it works out in the end on those ones.
Yeah, I understand. That's kind of just what we do. It's just that if you care, you're gonna take care of them as best you can.
Correct.
Aside from family obligations and just
Absolutely.
Like you said, things that can get in the way. But I get it.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like if you start, I think if a coach starts charging for every time you did, say, a video lesson with one of your players, and especially if someone you've seen a lot, they're not going to send video.
Right.
And then you lose a connection. You lose the relationship's not as good. And so I want my college players to feel comfortable enough, or pros to feel comfortable enough to shoot me a video, and they'll know I'll get back to them. May not be immediately, but I'll get back to them.
Yeah, that's right. So talk a little bit about your coaching style, especially with the elite juniors and the college players. I know you're like myself, you use a lot of technology. Talk a little bit about what you're using now, and we can kind of get into scenarios and maybe some of the things you're seeing with the different pieces that you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. So I use radar. I have TrackMan, Flight Scope. I use Swing Catalyst. It's fantastic. I obviously video almost goes without saying in today's market, doesn't it?
Right.
I do like 3D. I don't use it a bunch. I have a K-Vest. I've had a K-Vest for 12 years, actually. I'm probably one of the original K-Vest owners. But having said that, I think I like 3D. I don't like to get a ton of 3D reports. I like if I'm sending someone to we keep on bringing up John Tattersall,
Yeah.
but
Send him to him.
I'll use an example, but like if I do need like a detailed 3D report, I'll send it to John. I'll send them over to John, and he can give me all the data that I need. So do I like 3D? Yes. I don't feel like I need to use it frequently, but I do like a game plan. So when I'm setting up game plans from a swing enhancement, should we say, standpoint, I like 3D early in the year in that, so I can kind of see where people are, and then maybe test again 6 months or a year later.
So that would be more of like early stages of maybe a new student, or like you said, building a plan for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. But in general, I feel like I can get a ton of data if I use TrackMan, Swing Catalyst, video, your basic interview.
Right.
I'll do some physical assessments as need be. Kara, bring up Kara again. She's a TPI trainer, so I'll send students to her to do the functional screens and get tested, and so I have the body piece of the equation, just to make sure I'm not whiffing on anything from a body standpoint, because I don't want to ask somebody to do something that they physically can't do.
Sure.
I'm going to avoid that at all costs. And so sometimes on the ring, but you can see it, like when someone walks up, you pay attention to how they walk. Like, are they limping, right? How are they standing? When they're standing talking to you, are they favoring one side? Stuff like that.
Sure.
I think that counts.
Absolutely.
So observation, including you got to observe. You got to ask questions. Does the story that they tell, assuming new student here, like a new college kid, right? Does the story they tell match up with what you're seeing? Not that they're lying to you, but most of the time it does. But you're trying to like figure out why are they feeling and seeing what they're doing based on, say, the TrackMan numbers you're getting, the swing catalyst, the movement patterns you're just seeing. If I have a new student, I'll research them before they get here.
Sure. Who they worked with in the past, try to figure out
right. What are they
shooting?
Yeah, what are they shooting?
Mm-hmm.
What have they done in the past? Like, are they most of the time if they're coming to a college kid or pros coming to me, I'm currently struggling.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
the first time I've seen, so I know they're not playing well at that point. So that's obvious. But you want to kind of see like what have they done and get like just a little information of their background before they walk in the door. I think that's healthy too.
Yeah. So take us through it like a typical lesson, like that first lesson. Like, what are the questions you're asking? You know, what's the structure of your golf lesson look like? Sure.
So let's assume college. How about that? Can we do that? Because it would be a little different depending on the person.
Yeah,
so let's assume college.
Good college player. You know, he's coming to you struggling.
Yeah.
You know, what's that look like?
Yeah. So I will, after assume I've done all my research, I know roughly what they're shooting currently. If I know the college coach already, I would have reached out to him as well to figure out what they're doing. And then, so I have the background. And then my early questions are, what don't you like? What shot do you hate?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what really pisses you off? Like, you know, what shot makes you want to throw up? Like, go negative. I know it's negative, but
yeah, sure.
Like, at a certain point, you gotta find out why are they there, right? What don't they like? So once I figured out what they really don't like, and I've done some assessments, I'm like capturing information as they're doing this, because if someone's struggling, they're going to do one of, I think, especially a college player or a pro, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to get on your lesson tee or in your office and just verbally unload everything they're thinking.
Sure.
Or they want to immediately start hitting balls, say their full swing is their issue, immediately start hitting golf balls so you can see what they're doing, right? It's going to be one of the two. And so, but if they're hitting golf, it's the situation where they are hitting golf balls immediately. They just want to get going. Well, so then I'm kind of like assessing them as I go. I've got TrackMan set up. I'm doing some video. If I need to do some functional screens on the fly, I'll do it from hips or knee, whatever it may be, shoulder stuff, depending on what I'm seeing shot wise. And then I'll take them inside. I'll do some like in the hitting bays. I'll get my get the swing catalyst data, and then I'll say, "Give me a moment." So then I think about it. Because if they're good, which in this case we're describing a good player who's had success, he or she, I think, deserves for you to take a moment to like digest. Because if I have like TrackMan data, video, information from them, the story beforehand, swing catalyst information, I'm going to take a minute, right?
Yeah.
To like put it all together based on. They
appreciate that too.
Right, and I'll tell them that's what I'm doing. I'll give me a minute here.
Yeah.
Go get some water. Do something, right? And then from that, and then I say, and then if it's a new student, I'll say this frequently. I go, okay, you are good. Let's keep in mind you're good. Otherwise, you're not standing here in front of me.
Right.
And I'll always tell them, and I truly believe this, with good players, you need to know why that shot that you hate is happening. You've got to know why. Because if that player doesn't know why that shot's going snap hook left, we'll say, is the bad shot.
Right.
Then how are they going to fix it? Right. So
yeah, they have to have that information.
Right. And then I tell them, I'm going to speak for the next 10 minutes more than I'll talk for the next 2 to 3 sessions. And I'll just tell them everything I think.
Right.
I'll go, okay, here's the beginning. Yeah. This is the analysis. I'll boost the ego. I'll say, you're doing this. I'll give them at least 3 things that are good.
So, start with the positive.
You've got to, right?
Like
you got to,
that's great advice.
To, because they're already pissed off, sure. Right? They're already hitting it badly. They're not there for fun. So, it's, again, new student. We've never seen it before. That's why they're
upset at their old coach or their dad or whoever was trying to coach them. Yeah.
Right, they're just not happy, right? So you got to build them up a little bit, and because then you're probably going to tear them their ego down a little bit too, right? And you're going to tell them why, and I work through the process of this is occurring, and that's why that's occurring, and keep in mind it's all because of this. I'm always tying it back into the why the shot is snap hooking left or push cutting right or whatever you're hitting it in thin or whatever the contact point issue is, right? So I keep wrapping it back to the end result. Like, what are we trying to fix? So then they understand the connection.
Sure.
And so then it may be like, they go, wow, that's a lot. And I go, yeah, so all you need to, let's try this. And they'll maybe change their balance and setup. I go, if you do that, that's root cause of evil. So fix that. Right? And they go, that's it? And we're like, yeah, that's it.
Now, when you're doing the analysis, or do you tie that in with educating them on the basics of TrackMan numbers or the swing catalyst so they can sort of understand when you're making the changes, how the measurements are going to change and the numbers are going to change?
Great question. I skipped that. Sorry. So I also ask, how familiar are you with TrackMan numbers?
There you go. Yeah, I was going to say that's a big one for me.
Yes or no, and if they're not, go, okay, so I'm going to give you I'm going to explain what club path means. I'm going to explain what attack angle means, and assuming those 2 things need moving, which generally they do, right? You're trying to
right.
You're trying to work
3D club path, and then
right.
Face.
You're trying to figure out face path sweet spot relationship. That's what you're doing in full swing, and so I make sure they have an understanding. Don't go deep at all.
No, just super basic. But I always want to have them understand what creates ball flight in the collision, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. So, what is attack angle? You get a blank square stand. You go, okay, so is the club going up, down, or level when it hits the ball? And they go, okay, that makes sense. Sweet. Yeah. It doesn't have to be. Have to be complicated.
Exactly.
And then with Swing Catalyst, their software is really, I like their software. It's very easy for the student to understand.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons why I like Swing Cat so much. And so it's kind of easy to see the video tied in to foot pressure stuff and how it's moving. So I'll relate that if it's applicable to them.
Sure.
I'll explain it. So absolutely. I think it's important they have a level of understanding. There's no test at the end, right? They don't have to. Right. They're not going to have to do a pop quiz written test on a TrackMan number at the end, but they've got to understand why certain things happen. and how it relates to them and how it relates to their swing. It's all about them and why their ball is doing what it's doing. So like, because that's all they see. Like, they don't see a TrackMan number. God, I hope not. Like, they see what the ball does. So if I can,
Exactly.
they have to be able to like analyze ball flight as it relates to what they're doing, whether it's a pivot improvement we're having to try and make, a club movement, arm, whatever we're doing, whatever enhancement we're trying to make, body, club, arms, we'll say. They've got to relate that to like contact and ball flight. So there has to be some understanding there, because ball flight does matter. That's why we play. We're trying to get it in the hole. Right. So Mike, this is a long answer to your question.
Yeah, that's okay. Then you go to work, right? Then you start.
And then it's like,
changes.
yeah, you got it. Let's dive in. And you dive in and you start doing things. And I swear within 2 shots, you know if you're on the right track, and it's okay to like reframe how you're saying it, because in 2 shots you're going to see if the guy understands you or not. Like, are they moving in an improved way, body wise, club wise, whatever it may be. And if they're clearly not getting it, just you got to rephrase.
Sure. Or give them. Are you big on aids and constraints, or like, what's your style? Like, I like to move people around a lot, which kind of gets them feeling some different stuff. And I like very slow, like rehearsal swings, a lot of stuff off the ball. Is that close to what you do, or is how would you explain your style?
Yeah, so I enjoy. I do move people occasionally. I'll say not as much as you.
Yeah.
I think move. I like to often move the club, because like grip it, like hold the handle like right under the shaft, and I may have my hand on the shoulder while I'm doing this.
Sure, yeah.
You can feel. Sometimes you can feel how they're trying to move that weapon in their hands, right? You can feel how they're trying to. Right? Yeah, you can feel that they're trying to push the handle like up and away from them heavily, or down and low, whatever it may be that you don't want them to do.
Sure.
You can almost feel it if you like hold the handle. Hold the shaft just underneath the grip. If you hold it light enough, you can do it. And so then you get a sense of like what they're trying to do, how they're trying to apply force on the shaft, right? And get a feel of what's going on early. So I'll do that. I'll definitely do some constraint stuff, like aim rods, etc. If somebody needs to miss something. But it depends on the person. Sometimes people are very reactive. Like, you can put a water bottle outside in some location that they need to miss, and that will like change the whole swing. They go, oh, that makes so much sense. Sure. And you put that same water bottle for this, what you think is the same darn swing fault, to the next person, and that will make 0 sense to them, and it won't help them at all. Right. So I guess I could probably do everything. Like, I think having shots count. I will frequently put aim rods like 10 yards in front of people.
Yeah. Love that.
If you're hitting a hook, there's something to be said for like start it left of the aim rod.
Yeah.
And now try and work it back. And then that's where it does help. Like the club face is generally where the ball starts, and works away from the path, right? So you tell them that, and they go, "Oh, really? Sweet, yeah, try it," and they do it. So I think that Max, like again, that tunes them into a shot pattern, but and what their club face is doing. I think that awareness is important. So yeah, I think I'm a little bit hands-on. I'm a little bit constrained. I like slow practice swings for sure.
Yeah.
Sign me up there. Absolutely. I think I use technology to assist feels. Like some people can get a great feel for club path if you just put only the club path number up on TrackMan.
Sure. Right.
And I've seen that work like a charm. I've seen, and they say, okay, move it from negative to positive, or positive to negative. Depends on which way you want to go. I think swing cat or pressure stuff is really good to help feels, just setup. I'm a big believer setup wise. Let's go there.
Yeah. What's your preference there? Because I know sort of the tour averages. What do you like to see in setup as far as pressure?
Yeah. So I've yet to have a good player be 51% on their rear foot at setup. And if they are slightly on their back foot, at setup, like I go, hey, you're 51% on your back foot. Just get it a little bit on your front foot. And they go, okay. And they immediately hit it better. So it's really, I'm like, not one good player. And I'll define good player as, let's just go college pro, right?
Gotcha.
Not one of them have hit it worth a darn with starting with a little pressure on the back foot.
Yeah, like about 52 to 55% on the left side,
right?
Just to get something going into the trail
right,
foot, right?
Exactly. It helps them push off the left to get some pressure moving, and it helps momentum. They're not static. If someone's like loaded on their back foot like too much at setup, it's hard to like get going. You got to move. Like movement's important. That's why you see all these tour pros like shuffling their toes and dancing tapping their heels, right? I think that
kicking the right knee in.
Doing it, whatever. Like, you got to move.
Yeah.
Static doesn't work. Would be my. There's not many things that don't work in my opinion, but I've yet to see a really good player be absolutely static for more than a moment. You got to be still for a moment, but like, however you don't want to define a moment, that's what that's what you're allowed. So I would say front to back. I like to see a pretty even distribution between pressure front to back in both feet. So like toe pretty even. Gotcha. I think toes are bad and heels are bad. So I like to tell folks if they can feel that balance point is right behind the balls of the feet or the front of the arch in the foot. I think that's real. And the nice way to feel, so you can see that on Swing Cat really easily.
Sure.
Then if you just throw an aim rod on the ground and stand on the aim rod with it just behind the balls of your feet, kind of the front of the arch, and then go, okay, set up on that. How's it feel? Oh yeah, it feels great, right? Yeah. An aim rod is pretty powerful. So there's the Swing Catalyst for setup at home, an aim rod. That's a really nice way to do it.
What are some of the preferences you have in sort of the pressure moving into the backstroke? Because I mean, I use body track, as you know. I don't have the Swing Cat, but I think we probably have a lot of similarities there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll say left arm parallel lead arm parallel going back. I think that's an interesting checkpoint. I like if that's at that point, if it's above say 51%, I'm good. So
anything in the right side.
Anything in the right side. So if it's 55, let's say it's got to be about 55.
Yeah.
But it could be more depending on
what
like
if it's too much? Yeah, I think I see that a lot with I guess club players. I'm teaching probably more amateurs, or not amateurs, but more higher handicappers than you are. But that's what I see is overshifting.
Yeah. So if it's overshifting, like to me, that's when it's generally the upper body center is probably moving too much. Sure. Like they're just like leaning everything over there versus pivoting. A pivot, we can probably define a pivot as a turn and a tilt.
Yeah, rotation. Yep.
And that's just like a lateral student body right or something, right?
Yeah, it's just either a hip sway or, like you said, a
hip sway or an
upper body staying in flexion too long.
Something along those lines when you see that. But then after that, like say lead arm parallel to the ground, backswing check. At that point, it almost doesn't. I see everything, and that works. Like I have guys get to like with we'll say a mid iron, get to 80% or so on their trail side,
right? They
crush it, and then I've got other guys. 55 is the high, right?
Yeah.
And they crush it.
It probably depends on the speed of the pressure moving in transition, right? Or the timing of it, I guess.
The timing of it,
yes.
And I do. Correct, and I think people struggle when they get to the top of the backswing, and after you do it, I'm sure you've done it enough. Like you do it enough, you can almost see it on the tee without the pad going.
Oh yeah, I can guess.
Yeah, they get to the top, and then all of a sudden the arms are like coming down, the upper body's hanging back, and the pressure's just like increasing at this point on the trail foot. Yes. As the club is swinging down. That's generally doesn't work. If I get people the timing, can I say that, of the pressure, like right before that let's just say that. How about this? In the moment before their hands get to the top of the backswing, if their pressure is starting to fly back to the forward side, they're probably going to hit it okay.
Yeah.
Assuming a lot, that's a big assumption, but from a pressure and a movement world, I think that's important. I would say, but there's a lot of ways to get the pressure back to your front side, right? There's a ton.
Yeah, I think, that trail foot, that's something that I pay a lot of attention to, is if it gets too much in the toes, I think they struggle. It's like, I just call it that trail foot stability, and a little bit towards the heel is okay. But like I said, I've got a guy that actually gets in his heel too much, and that could be an issue. Like, they got to be able to push off, right? There's something has to move their body around and forward. So I think that's huge.
Right. Yeah, I think that matters. I really do. And that's why I have a preference, not a rule, but a preference that I like feet to be flat. Like,
yeah, me too, 100%.
There's no question.
Yeah,
and like,
that helps a lot.
How like, and I like it symmetrical. Again, this is preference. Just like, not all my players do this for sure, but like, if I have to like build the golfer, right, and I have a preference.
How much would you say? 20, 30 degrees? Something like that.
Like, yeah, kind of like 1 and 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
right. So it's not a huge. So it's not a huge amount.
Yeah.
But I will say, if say someone is struggling getting pressure to their, and I've seen this correlation occur a lot, that if someone's clearly having problems just getting any pressure to their rear side without having to do a big upper body sway, and their rear foot is straightforward. Say their rear foot's to 12 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Just pointing or even inwardly, and you just flare that sucker out, they'll shift pressure to the back foot without even trying. They don't even have to try to do it. So that helps. I think foot flare, especially on the downswing, from a rear foot standpoint, I think that is important to kind of almost allow the ankle to roll, for the pelvis to rotate. Like, you can go into squat easily if you need to, especially if you've got tight hips.
Yeah.
Like, you got tight hips, like your feet want to flare out anyway, so you might as well start them flared.
Yeah.
And most golfers have tight hips. So that's probably why I have a preference.
No, I love that too. I'm totally in agreement with that.
Right?
And plus, it gives, like you said, it gives them a little more trail hip mobility in the backstroke.
Yeah.
But it also keeps that right knee and right foot from kind of jumping sort of towards the ball.
Correct.
That's a quick fix I got from Chuck Evans a long time ago. I'm like, how do you fix the humpers? You go flare that right foot a little bit more, and they won't do it as much.
They won't do it as much. No, he's dead right. I completely agree. And then to get to the front side, you can, whether you push off the back foot. I mean, there's some feels involved here, but
sure,
I've done it from everything from having someone like just send the left knee forward. I've had people get to the top of the backswing, and I had a college player. She was about in last week. She was about to turn pro, actually. Here, end of the probably in the fall, but I got it to more effectively to the front side. She had to get to the top of the backswing and feel the difference between real, right? Feel like a upper spine tilted towards the target first.
Yeah, little left side bend.
Right. Whatever you got to do to get, and so you can't just go, oh, it's just in the feet because you're using pressure. I think sometimes it's the feet are the obvious ones if you're like big into swing cat body track world. Mm-hmm. And for most people that works, but sometimes you got to use like knees and left side bends, right? And stuff like that.
Center of mass is, that location is important as well, right? That's where if you don't have too much early right side bend, like the kids that we work with, they start sliding. Jumping, and now they're leaning back, as you always see the head drop back too much, and the low point control is a mess,
complete mess. I think at the midpoint of the downswing, we'll go back to lead on parallel, but downswing this time.
Right.
I think it's important from a face on world when you're looking at somebody from the caddy view face on. I think it's really helpful if you can try and get their like shirt buttons, and their belt buckle somewhat lined up.
There you go.
Not perfectly, like somewhat, but I also like that point. I call it kind of like the defensive slide move, like if someone's like you're in your defensive stance, right, and like someone's trying to drive on you, and they're going to drive on your, if you're a right-handed golfer, they're going to drive on your left. Well, like you're going to make a slight move to your front foot, right? Yep. Like you're going to slide, you're going to kick your knee out, like you've shifted some pressure over there, but you're not just going to send your hips, right? You're not just going to put your heel down. You're going to like kind of like move everything over there.
Torso and everything starts rotating.
Torso, you're going to get some stuff lined up, so then that way you have like your ankles, both ankles, both knees, your hips, your shoulders from that caddy view. They look almost in a line. They're almost like, they're not perfect, but they're somewhat straight lines from that caddy view perspective. I think that's an important position in the golf swing. I hate that I said position, but like you have to. But
on a podcast, you got to give them a picture, right? Yeah,
right.
I think you've heard George Gankus on the show not long ago, and I think he's got a lot of that right. A lot of times before we may have looked at it like it was a little bit funny, but it's starting to make a lot more sense. Kind of the way he teaches rotation in that early transition is exactly what you're explaining. Like,
forever and ever, I felt like that's important. Like it's like how well can I get like ankles, knees, and hips and all lined up halfway down.
What are your favorite drills for that? Do you have any aside from obviously moving them around and telling them to do it? Like, is there any drills that you go to that you find yourself using a lot for that, for lower body and leg action and pivot?
Yeah. So I like, let's go lower body stuff. I like step drills, but I rarely do just a left foot step forward. I think that drill can be a nightmare for people. I think it's over taught in golf.
Yes.
Like where, and I think it's taught incorrectly. In general, I hope that it's previously been taught in a way that I think is hurt. Let me rephrase this. I think the old school step drill, when you step your left foot forward,
yes,
or your lead foot forward, and then hit the golf ball. I think it's been, unfortunately, it's really good for slices.
Right, but it creates too much linear, right, for the good player.
It's way too much for the fast, good player. They start really getting the upper body hanging back dramatically, the lower body sliding out forward.
I agree.
And now you have low point issues. You have your blocks and hooks is what you have,
right, with
speed, and that is a disaster. Blocks and hooks with speed is like you're trying to give someone the driver yips. So I think. So when I like to do a step drill, I actually do it like kind of often do a two-way step drill. So like, let's assume right-handed golfer for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I have their feet as wide as their hips. They step the right foot back, swing the club. Step the left foot forward, hit the golf ball. So it's kind of like step, step, hit.
Right.
And by shifting by like picking up your right foot, stepping it to the right, and then swinging back on the backswing, all of a sudden you just loaded the right side.
Right, and you have to be stable with that right foot, or you're gonna.
You have to. You just planted it down, right, and so it's like you've got suction cups all of a sudden on the bottom of that right foot. So it's really, you got this really strong, stable base. Like your right leg is like posted nicely. It can straighten, it can turn. It's amazing. And then all of a sudden, like that foot is like so suction cupped to the ground. When you like pick up your left foot and make a little baby step towards the target, now all of a sudden, like your knees have kind of created a little separation, but there's a space between the knees is created.
There you go.
And so they can kind of feel the lines, and like they can kind of feel their upper torso and their pelvis almost working together versus hips go, and then they wait for a while, then the upper body goes, right? It's like a little more, it's closing the gap there. I like that one. I'll do a forwards. I will do a step drill that's almost left hand, that's almost lead foot only, but I'll take 4 golf balls and put them in, I'll space them out 1 foot between each golf ball, and I'll put them on a diagonal towards the target. So then it's walk and hit. So now all of a sudden, like you're walking down the diagonal line slightly towards the target. So it's like left foot hit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's it's a diagonal line, 4 golf balls, 1 foot between each golf ball. The diagonal, let's call it 45 degrees to your target line. And you just like, don't stop moving. Just keep swinging. And when you can keep swinging like that, all of a sudden, like, you create the same thing as the two foot step, the right foot, left foot drill does. You
Gotcha.
you start creating gaps between and separators between the knees, and that makes it easier to control the upper body. So those would be two go-to drills for footwork, movement, but yeah, very movement based.
Yeah, I've started using one that actually just, again, when Gankus came through and was talking about rotation, it sort of made me think, he was talking about pushing the left side almost backwards, right? And this is great for hookers, right? Guys that slide too much or hump it. Actually getting them to rotate. And then, so I'll get them to actually pick the left foot up and pull it backwards, like say towards the back wall of your building, and swing, right, and gets them swinging obviously more left, and also gets the torso opening up and gets the pressure moving towards the lead heel a little bit sooner. Just something I've been doing lately that's been kind of cool. You don't necessarily have golf balls with it. It's just a great one to sort of rehearse and to feel the pressure moving, less out towards the toes if you get somebody that's sliding too much, and a little bit more rotation.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of what we're talking about right now, just so anyone who's listening to this, is it's like a lot of this stuff is for the faster player.
Right. We're talking
like,
elite players, juniors and college
elite
players.
Juniors, like people with some speed.
Yes.
I think, right, it's for the person, I don't care about the gender. I'm just going to, like, the person who doesn't swing very fast, like the step drill, some of the step drills may be good for timing and sequencing and rhythm for them. Mm-hmm. It's not going to help them. Like, it's really, I'm going to use those just to try and like get some body segments lined up with the fast player, so the hips aren't just like sliding like crazy, which the old school like left foot step drills, like you have your feet really close together, right? Like feet basically together. You swing back, you step the left foot, and then you hit it. And like all of a sudden, like you've got like your belt buckle like a foot in front of your sternum on the downswing, and you're asking to create like blocks and hooks and driver yips for the good player, and that'll cause you to lose some players in a hurry.
So let's transition a little bit into coaching, right? So at what point, like during the lesson, because I like to always sort of break it up, maybe not in the very first lesson, but as you start working with a player frequently, you start trying to test them, right? So you're either taking them on the golf course or doing, I use the TrackMan Combine a lot to just say, all right, let's test it out. Let's do a skills test. Like, what are your, I guess, parameters or benchmarks that would tell you that they're ready for that? And then what are some of the things that you use for your coaching?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think that's very important with any competitive player. Yeah. I think if someone's just like kind of getting going in the game, then that would be a disaster, right?
Yeah, we're talking about good players here.
Yeah, but if a good player, I think anybody who's like willing to post a score, you're my friend, because that takes some like dedication, and it takes some courage to like step up in any tournament, whether it's the member guest or member or the NCAA tournament or the PGA Tour. Like, you're willing to go. Good for you, right? It's good for you to like you're ready to post a score. So when that's the case, I think in a lesson setting, when I kind of do it by feel, actually. So say we're working on a swing improvement, right? We'll go back to the hook. Somebody's hooking it, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden you're on the range, and I've got a parameter, like you're hitting at a target, say between like two posts in the net at the end of the range or something to that. And they're starting to do it okay. Like, they're starting to like kind of hit towards the target most of the time. And they visually, like, they've reduced the path to the right. The TrackMan number says that you're running that TrackMan. It's like, okay, that path is like, all of a sudden, like when they're thinking about it right now, that's consistently only maybe 2 degrees to the right versus 8 degrees to the right. Sure. You're on the right track in terms of club path improvement or whatever the deal may have been. And so then I will test it. I'll make them take a break. And it could be just me stepping in and talking about something completely random in the lesson. And then I go, okay, it could be anything. It could be like, let's go do a putting game where you've got to make a 3-foot putt and hit a drive in play. Or it could be, okay, if it's an iron, they've been struggling with the irons. There's 6 target greens on our range. I was like, okay, you've got to hit 5 of the 6 target greens in regulation.
So you give them a goal and a measurement to the skill. Got it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or you have to go hit 10 3-footers in a row. And the putting green is like, it's not long, it's not all of 20 yards away, but it's still a pain in the tush, right? For them to have to go walk over there. And I'm like, come on, I'm getting tired. I'm walking back and forth, right? So
that's golf, though, right? I mean, like you're testing them in a more real world golf course environment.
I think so. And whatever you can do, so you don't have to go to the golf course, I guess is my point of those stories.
No, I love to hear what guys are doing on the range that can sort of simulate golf course, because we don't always have that opportunity to jump out there.
No, like it's we have 3 phenomenal golf courses at Sea Pines, and they're really good, so they're busy. So if I got like a player in the morning, we may not be able to go on the course. So you've got to find a way to do it on the range. It's never the same as a tournament. There's nothing like giving someone that really heavy pencil that they have to sign on with the scorecard, right? But like you can begin to simulate it, but there is a sweet spot there, right? You can't go too hard. And when I had the junior academy, I had a coach working for me one time, and I got there in the afternoon, and he's like, "I've got this great putting game. It's phenomenal." He's like, "It's going to be great." He had this whole putting green mapped out with this, like, they've got to putt here, make this many 3-footers, make an 8-footer before you move to it. And I'm sitting back going, "Wow, that's complicated, right?" But really cool. Let's just see how they do.
Yeah.
There was so much. I feel like every single kid wanted to like snap their putter over their knee at the end of it. Like no one could finish it.
Yeah.
So it became
like what is the line, right? Like
right?
uncomfortability and like making them frustrated. I get it, but at some point, are you just killing their confidence?
And we killed the confidence that day. So like I made it a point. It was a good learning moment for everyone on the team, right? We go, okay, we can't. You have to adjust. You have to adapt. And these were good players, but he made it too hard. Yeah. Like you've gotta. So I use like a 60% rule. So if someone can complete a task 60% of the time, that's about right in the testing world. Okay. So we're looking for 60% about, and there's some feel involved with that. If we're doing a putting challenge, shall we say, I like doing 10 random putts between 4 and 10 feet, and they've got to make 7 of 10. And they have 15 minutes to complete it. And if they don't complete in 15 minutes, they come back tomorrow and try again.
So they got to start over if they don't get the goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So something along those lines. Like I like goals, and I like time limits on the goals, because then I can almost always fall within my 60% rule.
And that adds that extra little pressure.
It does. Yeah.
I like it.
Just adds another. So anything along those lines. And like that 10-foot game is like you can just like take ball markers and write 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on them, and like just put them around, and they have to like go find the 1, then go to the 2, then go to the 3. It's a good way to do it. So you kind of map out a quasi-random course for them.
I love it.
Yeah.
What are some of your go-to like on-course games when you do get to go out and do a playing lesson with your guys or your girls?
You know what? On course, I like to, it depends. Like I'll do so there's some strategy involved. I really like Decade to plug.
Yeah, there you go. Scott
Fawcett, right? I do really like the math and how it relates. I've had numerous students, when they give them that the first time, they say, wow, this is like cheating. That's where I have to aim. Okay, that's easy. What's also interesting about it is like I have some really good ball strikers will tell me, wow, this is more aggressive than I would normally do.
Interesting.
And because they're almost taking advantage of how good they're hitting it. They're playing too safe. Yeah. They're still playing so safe like they did when they were a little kid who couldn't hit any greens, right? And so they haven't transitioned. So that'll happen some. So I'll do strategy on the course for sure. But then game-wise, I love it when I compare a college kid or a pro with a junior, because you make the junior sweat. They're so nervous. Well, that's some great preparation for like that next tournament. That next tournament is going to seem easy. So I like doing that. And then but actual game wise, I like basic. If it were, say we're out there for 9 holes, and I'll hit different shots with one ball, but then I'll keep score. I'll always have a ball in my pocket, and we'll just do like everything's par 3, like up and downs. So I have to play a 9-hole up and down game with a target score. Depending on the golfer, you change the target score, right?
Right.
Try and make, if I'm doing 9 holes up and downs, in addition to the golf ball that they're playing, I'll try and give them 3 medium, 3 easy, 3 hard shots. 1 has to be a bunker shot. And then you just keep track. And for some people, if they're newer, shall we say, or they're not that familiar with the game, or their short game's a weakness, just so I can give them, I'll say everything's par 3. You just got to get, so if everything's par 3, you're trying to shoot under par.
Right.
Right? So that means you're trying to get up and down. A good player, it's everything's par 2. How close to par can you get?
Yeah.
You got to chip 1, shoot under par. So you can change the score. I think it's important to change scoring in whatever game you play based on the player you have in front of you. And again, I'm fortunate I work with a lot of really good players, but there's still range within that.
Sure.
I had the 2 youngest. I have two 12-year-olds who I work with who travel to see me. Sorry, 2 10-year-olds who travel to see me, and they're the 2 youngest kids I work with, and their games are like, I make them challenging because they're really good.
Yeah.
Right. They may be harder than some of like the 15-year-old games I give because their short game's so darn good. Right. So you got to adapt to the player, not the age of the player in front of you.
Sure. Yeah, I love doing that with wedges. I'll be on the course and we go, all right, let's go to 60, 70 yards or whatever and give them 5 balls and give them a target score. So you gotta shoot 13 or you gotta shoot 11 or whatever it is.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's just anything with a measurement and a goal at the end. Put a little pressure on them, I think is awesome.
I think it's really important. And one other game that I started probably about 4 years ago. I had a young man who was one of the best junior ball strikers I've ever worked with, and he went to school. And in junior golf, he would a bad day would be 15 greens in regulation.
Wow.
Like the kid would be, and without exaggeration, like it was unbelievable. Well, in junior golf, that's kind of and he's long, so that's easy to do. He bang his driver, hit his wedge on. And then he got to college golf, and the pins were closer to the edge of the greens.
Right.
Right. And so all of a sudden, he started missing greens. And I will take some of the blame in this. We hadn't developed his short game enough. So
he didn't have
because of that, he didn't have to. But all of a sudden, golf's cyclical, right? Like there's growth spurts. There's growth spurts in college happen, right? They get bigger, They get stronger, and so so they start missing greens. And all of a sudden, if you don't have a short game, you're not going to shoot the same scores, and then that hurts the confidence. So now I definitely do a game. If I have a really good ball striker, I'll tell him to go out and play 9 holes and purposely miss every green.
Oh yeah,
but not allowed to hit. Not allowed to hit the green.
Yeah.
And then they go text me your score.
And if they hit the green, they have to take a stroke or something.
It's a bogey. Yeah, you add one. Like it's automatic. They have to kick it off the green and add one, right?
I love it.
So it's I think that's really good for like the developing junior and even college play, because there's some great ball strikers out there. It's college golfers today are so much better than I ever was at the high level. It's unbelievable. It really is. Like the how far and how consistently, I know the consistency word, but how well kids can hit it is like, it still shocks me sometimes.
Yeah,
even though I'm around it all the time. And so they can get on rolls where they hit a lot of greens. So I think it's really important to develop that, like the up close short game, because you're going to get short sighted some.
Yeah.
No matter how much you decade it, you will get short sighted occasionally. You're going to hit a bad shot.
My favorite one, especially when kids are hitting it good, and you really want to test them, is worst ball scramble.
Yeah,
because it gets them to focus. Like it's easy to sit there and stripe one, and you got to do it twice, or you got to make a 5-footer twice. That is a tough. I mean, talking about breaking down somebody's confidence too. Like sometimes, I was telling them, like, if you can shoot par playing worst ball scramble, then you're really playing well.
Yeah, you're playing great. So yeah, I think that's those are probably my big go-tos. Like I go heavy short game on the course.
Yeah,
I really do. Because the driving range is the driving range. It's like
right.
do all the full swing stuff you want in the world, in my opinion. Then you add strategy on course and heavy short game situation. Learn how to play. Like,
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Like, we're playing the game, not swinging the club. And I think I did just forget about it. And that shows how easy it is to forget that we can talk about all the pressure traces, TrackMan numbers in the world. You still got to get the freaking thing in the hole.
That's right.
And if you, at some point, you're going to hit it behind a tree. Learn how to like punch it out of the woods, right? Learn how to like, you're in a fairway bunker and you've got an overhanging limb. What are you going to do? Well, like, go figure it out and try it, and then try it again. And if you fail twice, I'll tell you, right? But at a certain point, like they have to try to they just have to try, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, that's another good point, or another sort of question that comes up is how often do you let your players sort of try to find the solutions before you give them the answers?
So I definitely talk less than I used to in a lesson. And I'm really okay. Say I'm actually giving a lesson to a guy who's like a 20 handicap. I'm like almost to a fault. Okay. Tell him to do something. They got it, right? They hit some shots, they do some drills, they come off and running. And at some point that's going to like flail. They're going to come back to the old scenario. I'm okay, like just like standing back and watching them like chop it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas when once upon a time, I'd be back there sweating, like just like nervous as all get out.
Yeah.
That guy's now hitting it poorly. Like if you just gotta let him go some, but to a point. Like you gotta again, just back to what I mentioned earlier, you gotta read the player. If they are really frustrated, you gotta like jump in, like mitigate the situation, like take their mind somewhere else, talk through what their solution is, make them set up a practice swing station for them. On the range all the time, I have like I probably say this once a day at least. I probably have players who are sick of me saying this. Go to your practice station, take your practice swings, work on it, get a feel. I'll give you some feedback, and then go to your PlayStation, the slot next door, right? Go to that PlayStation, hit a shot. Did it feel the same?
Yeah, I love that.
Tell me what you felt. Like, what did you do? What did you feel? It's your body, not mine, moving. Like, what did you feel? And you got to pull it out of them. When someone's struggling, there is a time and a place to let them struggle, but you have to be also cautious that they're paying you to get better.
There you go. Yeah,
So
I talk to my guys about that all the time, because we're trying to do more of that. I mean, we're trying to help our players be problem solvers, but you can't go on the over the deep end to where they're going, is this guy going to say anything to me? This is stupid. You know, because you got to be able to read that player and go, all right, I better get in there and give them something, because they're going to give up or they're not going to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to do, exactly. If you just don't want to make any money, you can just stand there and be really quiet. So there's a line, and you with experience, you kind of figure out the line. And sometimes I probably go one way too much and the other way too much.
Sure, we all do.
We all, but yeah, they're there to get better, and they're paying that student, whether it's a tour pro or a new golfer, paying you to like get better at the game. So give them something that will get them better.
Yeah,
I know that sounds obvious,
absolutely.
but like don't just stand there mute. Like, and they're also like, once you get them going, then it is not so much with my players, but like with the average club golfer, because I lived in that world for a long time. There is an entertainment value, right? Like you want them to like enjoy it and enjoy the game and enjoy time with you. So I think the club golfer, you do have to recognize that fact that they're there to like spend time with you and like have fun.
Yeah, that's why I say my passion for watching too many movies on Netflix has kind of paid off at some point where you've got little catchphrases and you actually got a sense of humor that you've developed over time that comes in handy with your club player for sure.
No question. And to be fair, like, I went to Florida to work with a couple of my guys last week, and a few of them, I'm there. I'm with them all day long, right? We're not just working all day. Like, we're having fun, right?
Yeah.
And we're still having fun. It's got to be entertaining, because if it's a grind all day long, they're not going to get any better. You've got to, like, allow them to digest the information, like marinate on it, marinate almost like on what you've told them. Go have lunch. I have lunch with them. Like, take these breaks. That is an important part of coaching.
Sure. Especially
the good player. The good player, I think it's really important to take your time in terms of let them work on it, because they're trying to make a living at this game, and they are entrusting you to have them perform at their utmost highest level. So you want to take your time. You want to be like I am like massively invested in my players. Like, I just, probably to a fault, but like I'll call to check in, I'll text to check in, like, whatever I need to do, right? Just to,
that's so important.
But it's part of the relationship. So yeah, when I spend like a whole day in Florida recently with a couple of them, like, yeah, it's getting to know them too and building that relationship. And then we like dive in. We work. There's some meat in there. Like, we work on some like real stuff.
Absolutely.
Like, but you kind of have to like be able to like weave your way in and out of those deep details, right? So it can't be just mute, and it can't be all grind. It's a happy balance between those two.
Yeah, that's, you've heard me talk about the difference between the IQ and the EQ, and that's really what we're talking about. Is like, how do you develop that side of it, that EQ side of it? So transition a little bit into helping the young coaches out there, because that's a question that I get all the time, is how do you get better as a young coach? Like, what would be advice you would give, like, say, a PGM student that wants to teach when he gets, into the business, or just young coaches in general that want to get better? Because I think it's different now than when we were younger. Like, the learning opportunities are definitely different with, I don't think the kids read as much as we did back in the day. That a lot of the stuff's online, or listen to podcasts, or, there's a lot more certifications. I mean, what advice would you give?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I think so say you just left the PGM program. How about that? Like, you're just out, right? If you really want to get into teaching, you've got to find somewhere. This is easier said than done. You got to find somewhere where you can actually teach. And that generally does not mean an assistant pro position at a private club.
Sure.
It can sometimes. Like, there's some like phenomenal clubs, like you can pick them like frequently in the Northeast. A seasonal job, it would be like a great place to go, and you can be an assistant pro and teach a lot at a seasonal job. That can happen. So the obvious then choice is like, how do you get to a golf academy? Whether it's the Sea Pines Resort, it's right, it's Sea Island, it's it's TPC Sawgrass. I keep going down the list of the coast here. Like, insert golf schools on the West Coast, and you're done, right?
Yeah.
But I think you've got to be able to teach. Like, you have to like actually get your hands dirty and teach. Now, because then that helps with the EQ question. How do you interact with people, and how do you read someone? You can't read that in a book. You just got to like do it, and
right?
Be with people and see them fail, and then ideally have. And this is why, like, if you can get a position, an entry level position. Heck, I taught for free in my first job. Like, if you can get an entry level position where you can just give lessons, and then talk to someone who you respect, hopefully at that setting academy, about said lessons,
yes,
you will probably become a pretty good teacher pretty quickly. So that's in terms of like how to just figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and develop a little bit of that emotional level reading people. So you've got to do it. the other thing is that, and you've mentioned this before on your pod, so I won't belabor the point, but there is so much online, right?
Yes.
So much information. Like, you can just hit go, right, and just find out all sorts of like phenomenal information that you and I never had when we were getting into the game, shall we say.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's all out there, and like, yeah, I spend way too much time going to conference, not too much time, but I spend a lot of time going to conferences, reading books, like looking at blog posts of different folks,
Right.
and just trying to like, or just talking to people who are way smarter than I, right, and trying to figure out some good stuff. So yeah, I think for young coaches, it's, if possible, it's easier said than done, and I know it is, but find a place where you have a high chance of teaching a bunch. Like, I have a young man right now, Marcus Hunt, who works for me. So he's in his second year with me, and he teaches so much right now because he's at a resort and a facility that we can give him a lot of golf lessons, and
Sure.
his development is like off the charts.
Yeah.
He checks all the boxes, right? He's got good interpersonal skills. Oh, I've got one other thing for young coaches. This is like pet peeve. You need to be able to return an email with good grammar.
I knew you were going to say that. I've heard you say that.
It's not a text. Like, it's and the reason is, like, you're probably, if you get an inquiry coming into your facility where somebody wants to take a golf lesson, odds are really high if it's like for a typical club golfer or a resort setting, they're working or have worked and being quite successful. So they probably would appreciate a nice grammatical reply. I think it's very important. Like, that email can often be your first impression to a client.
Sure.
And if you write an email that's with grammar errors all over the place, it is a turnoff. Because I've had people tell me as much.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, we've all made those mistakes, and
Yep.
you try to really.
you try and like button it up as much. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? But
Yeah.
it can't be. It's got to be good. So actually, when I do interviews for new positions, I'll actually have the people write me an email, like pretending
that's awesome.
I'm Tim Cooke from New York City, and I'm inquiring about a lesson next week. How would you respond? And that has dictated positions for me, 100%.
That's really good
Because
advice.
because especially in the resort world, like, we get a lot of emails coming in looking for instruction during a vacation. So that it matters.
Very good.
So yeah, so I think those are the big ones for young coaches. Find somewhere you can teach a bunch if possible. That's easier than done. Teach for free if you have to. Teach your friends if you have to. Write emails that have good grammar, not text. And then you got to study. My gosh, there's so much good information out there. If you don't, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
There's no excuse to be stupid out there now. That's what I always tell the kids. And like, it's out there. You just get in there and read it.
Yeah.
Or talk to somebody
Exactly.
that knows it. And, like you said, that's what I love. The guys that work for me, Robbie and Seth, are both great at just, I've given them opportunities to build the relationships of my smarter friends, and they've taken advantage of it. And that's really how you get ahead.
Right. Yeah. It's like massive. It's massively important. Sorry, I'm just moving.
No, you're good.
Hope that one's too loud. Yeah. So I think that's like really, really important. I really do. But there's so many good young coaches out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. They're so far ahead of, I know when I was in my 20s, and it's not even close.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's absolutely tremendous. Like, the technical information that's still evolving, shall we say?
For sure.
And it will continue to evolve long after we're gone. The what we know about how the body moves, et cetera, and how the club moves, and how those things interrelate, it's just awesome compared to when I was taking lessons as a college golfer.
Yep. All right, so let's do a couple of quick hitters here.
Sure.
Transition a little bit into some real life stuff. So how have you ever had a failure or a roadblock in your career or your life that has set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite story?
Yeah, I have one, and I can't give all the details of it, but I'll go big picture.
Okay.
I was approached one time, and you'll get the gist. I was approached one time about setting up an academy, and I said this was great. The money was really good. The payouts were going to be fantastic. It was really good. Contracts were there. It was a good deal, right? It failed miserably. It cost me a lot of time, and it cost me a decent amount of my own money.
So what were the deals as far as why did it fail? Was there
what was
for a learning moment here?
Yes, for the learning moment. Yes, for the learning moment is that and what it let me phrase it this way. What it caused me to do was anytime a deal comes my way, I take a long time to decide if I want to do it or not. Because it taught me to not jump at everything. It taught me that, unfortunately, you can't trust everybody. It taught me that some things, sometimes it is too good to be true.
Sure. And
you have to do your homework. And I did not do my homework on the back end of the deal as to what the actual numbers were, how much. What was there was not there. Let's put it that way. And so, but it has definitely set me up for success, because now I may miss out on some good opportunities occasionally, but that opportunity, when it's good, I get it, and it's always good.
Yeah. You're improving your chances, I guess.
Dramatically,
of not making a big mistake.
Correct. So the failure was that I went too fast. The learn was to take my time. So I actually do that now, even with new students. So say I only have so much time in my day, and so I have very limited slots and time for taking on especially new junior players. And so now I have an evaluation process to figure out, am I compatible with that junior?
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. That's a great. Yeah, that's a great point. What does that look like? Do you have some checkpoints, or how do you decide that? I get that all the time, and I'm not really good at saying no. And this is a lot more for me. How do you do that?
I tell them ahead of time that I'm booked out 2 to 3 months year round. So I have limited spots, and so I'm very upfront. So if we're compatible, if I work with them and they work with me, then we can decide if it's going to be a good coaching relationship going forward, because I want to be all in. I want to be completely invested in their goals, and whatever those goals are, I'm going to put everything I have into it so they can reach them. Give it everything I've got. And I tell them that up front. So that all of a sudden they know they better bring it. Because if I'm all in, they better be. So then pretty quickly so then we do a 2-hour session where I go full coaching. I'm evaluating how they hit it. How do they interact? How do they interact with their parents? Are their parents hanging around? Are the parents involved? I don't mind if the parent stands right next to me on the tee or they leave. I don't really care what the parents do. I just want the parent to be supportive. So whatever works. They just got to be supportive of the kid. But I think that evaluation process pretty quickly, this is going to sound mean, they better be good. Are their scores pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Do I think if I help them, can I make them good? Or are their goals so far removed, if they're in, say, they're coming to me at the beginning of their 12th grade year and they tell me they want to play Division I golf, yet they've yet to break 90 in a tournament. I'm going to say, you know what? I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's actually, even though that's, I said that first, it's almost lost. Are they nice? Do they interact with people well? Are they polite?
They're not going to be a pain in the butt.
100%. Right? Because if they're going to be a pain in the butt in that initial, and kind of moody in that first 2 hour, that evaluation session, then they're going to be really moody going forward. And well, that's just no fun.
Yeah.
I like to have a good time when I coach. I like it to be fun, entertaining, because I feel like you learn more when there's some joy involved. And if it's just a whole bunch of bad kicking, then you're out.
So how do you handle that? How do you handle saying no? Like, do you have any tactics or any phrases, like an email, or, I mean, it could be not just for a student, but it could be, you know, a speaking engagement, or, you know, because I get a lot of requests that I don't have time to do, and I know you get even more. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I'm getting better at saying no. That's really hard. It's one of my goals for this year was to say no more, say no more frequently. I always put it. I'm always very nice. I hope I'm nice, but I say, I don't have enough time right now for me to give my all to this project, or I don't have enough time right now for me to be fully invested in this coaching opportunity with your child, son, daughter, like et cetera, or player. But then if it's a coaching situation, I'll often offer, if I don't have enough time, like sometimes I don't have enough time, then, because if somebody wants to see me once a week, that's going to be really tough.
Right.
Like, if they're new, it probably wouldn't happen. It may, but probably not. Maybe like once a year, can I take on a new person once a week? And then that'll end up being 3 times a month I see him. So I'll have other people on, like Marcus, the young man I just mentioned, who's a phenomenal coach. He'll like co-coach with me some. So then that way, because some kids need like frequent instruction when they're first developing. So I think that's important. But yeah, basically I'm just honest. I'm just saying, I don't have time. It's not that I don't want, like, you know, and I don't think it's going to be a good fit, or I don't think it's not time. But here's another option. If I don't think it's going to be a good fit, I'll give them another option in the area that they could go to.
Nice. So what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
It's a good one. I have always, and I love video games, and like my son is 12 and he loves video games. So we bond on video games. There you go.
I love it. What's your favorite? What have you been playing lately?
So right now, so he did have me hooked on Fortnite, but I've deleted that because it became way too addicting.
Yeah,
it was too much. So now his latest thing is Clash of Clans. So he has got me he's got me playing Clash of Clans on my phone all the time.
Oh,
but those are the little ones that you can do on iPads and phones and stuff.
Sure.
But I will say, I'll have nothing like Mario Kart 8 on Nintendo Switch is phenomenal. I could play that for hours. Not that I have hours to do it, but I will play. So yeah, Brody, my son Brody, and I, and my daughter, she'll play it too. But like, Brody and I can bond over some video games.
That's awesome. So we mentioned books earlier. Do you have anything that you're reading currently, or maybe a couple books that have greatly influenced your life or your career that you can think of?
God, there's so many books. Like
I
read a lot.
I get that question when I'm a guest, and I always go blank. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting here looking at my.
How about this?
Library.
I'll answer it this way: the book that I gift the most. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
The book I give away the most is "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday.
I've heard that come up a lot.
It has that. The Obstacle Is the Way. It's definitely influenced my coaching style. It's the best way to describe it is an easy understanding of Stoicism, and it's a great read. And it's a bunch of stories, and it's a really quick read. I've read it. I'll read it multiple times, but I think it's a great book. I give it a lot to guys when they're getting ready to turn pro or getting ready to go to college, because it's about how do you deal with obstacles and change, and how can that obstacle become like the pathway, shall we say, to greater success. So sometimes when you're missing like 8 cuts in a row or something like that, it's a really good read because you can say, okay, I'm in a hole right now, but how am I going to get out of this hole and make this my leaping point? So Yeah, let's just go with the obstacle is the way. We'll go with
great.
that one. That's
I love it.
That's my gifter.
I've got to get it because it's come up so many times on other podcasts, and I've definitely got to get that one. That kind of leads me into when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, stressed out, as we, in our busy lives. Like, do you have any go-tos? What do you do? What do you ask yourself? Any tactics you could share?
Yeah. So I definitely, when I'm walking out to a lesson, I will tell myself almost every single time, be present, be where your feet are, like be with this person. Because it's a busy resort. I'm running the learning center. Like we have 6 of us, like running in different directions. So I think it's really important that I'm like 100% with the person who's in front of me. So I'll tell myself that truly, like
literally verbally say that out loud, or like just to yourself,
just in my head, my head at the door, I'll frequently do that. It's
so
really
snap
easy
you
to get
back
distracted.
into your lesson mode.
Yeah, right.
I like
it. So I'll do that a lot. I think I do meditation. I have for a few years, a couple years, and I think that helps tremendously.
Yeah, I've just started trying that, like some guided meditation. Let's talk about that a little bit, cause just for myself, but do you use like an app? Do you have a certain
I use
mantra,
an app.
or how do you do it? I know there's transcendental, and then there's different
right.
styles.
So I use an app. I use Headspace. It's great.
Yeah, I've used that before.
Years. It's like it's it just tells you what to do.
Yeah.
And it's nothing complicated at all. I think it's incredible how. So when I started doing meditation, I did it for some different reasons, and
sure.
and it's definitely I would say within like a week I felt the difference.
Yeah. What time of day do you do it? Is there a certain time, or do you just try to do it whenever you have that free?
I do it whenever I have time.
Gotcha. That's me too.
And it's, I know, because we have little kids, right? And we're trying to get in school year. We're trying to get them out the door.
Yeah.
And so like my morning routine is like, during the school year is like, can we get the kids to school on time? That's the morning routine, right? It's like, that's it, right? So it's not then. And I like to sleep. So that's a problem, right? So I'm not getting up early. I love sleeping. And so I think it's whenever I can fit it in, and it always like calms things down. It always helps me be a little, I've said it again, more present.
More present, yeah.
Sorry
conscious.
for overusing that conscious, like, it's, and then once I started doing after like a week, it's a couple years ago, after a week or so, I realized I was like, there's something here. So then I started reading books on it, and like just all the different types of meditation that's out there. But even there's lots of different types, and I just like the guided meditation. And maybe I like the guided meditation because I am a little scattered in the time of day that I do it, but I would say I'm like pretty consistent. I'll miss days occasionally. So
sure.
I'm not going to say I do it every day, but
yeah,
I definitely do it more days than not.
Yeah. Shout out to John Hardesty. He kind of got me onto Sam Harris. It's the Waking Up podcast, or Waking Up app for meditation.
Okay, yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, it's like it's he sort of mixes it up every day, so it kind of challenges you to focus on different things. And yeah, so far I'm super new to it, so it's been very helpful. Sometimes I don't know how long your commute is, but mine's a little longer, like 45 minutes sometimes. By the time I get to work, I'm stressed out from like all the emails and texts that I've already gotten. I've done meditation like in my car, getting ready to step out and go into my day, and it's helped a ton just to kind of reset my my mind a little bit.
Yeah, isn't it ridiculous how like we can have an email ping on our phone and it could like set your brain flying in all sorts of, I wonder what that is. Who is that?
Yeah.
It's your boss. What does he want? Right? It's all these crazy things.
Yeah.
Versus no, just like deal with the person in front of you. Make them better, and then you'll feel better.
I got to do that. I got to do a better job of that for sure. That's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm hearing that a lot more from high performers and successful people. So I'm going to stick with it. And I think it's definitely going to make a difference.
I had a lot of my players do it.
I think if I was playing for a living, I would have some form of that.
Some form of
mental training. Yeah. Mindfulness, mental training in my day or my week that I think would definitely help.
Absolutely. I think it's no question.
All right. Final question. If you could have a giant billboard with anything on it, yep, metaphorically speaking, obviously, where you could put a message that would get to billions of people, what would your billboard say and why?
So I've listened to the podcast. I've thought about this. But honestly, I tried to come up with different things. And I always come back to the same thing. And actually, honestly, I just mentioned it. I dropped it early. But so every morning when I drop one of my kids, normally my son goes to middle school a little bit later, so I drop him off on my way to work. And I always tell him, like, and my daughter, if I drop her off early, but I always say, be where your feet are today. Like, that's the last thing I tell him. So, like, the billboard would just say, be where your feet are.
I love it.
Because I say it to them every morning because I think it matters. It's easy.
Well, they all have their phones and they're all, in a million different places. And if they can do that, obviously we've got to set the example because we're working on our phones, right? Which is a little bit different, but still it can be very, very distracting. And I think that's fantastic advice. I love it.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what I do.
Awesome stuff, man. So tell the listeners kind of how they can get a hold of you, follow you on social. I know you got a great Instagram page with all your players, and so give them some.
Yeah, so my social stuff is just at Tim Cooke Golf, and Cooke has an E in it. Very British. Tim Cooke at Tim Cooke Golf on the gram. It's the same on Twitter. I'm more of a Twitter reader, to be honest, than a Twitter interactor. But I'll post on Instagram a decent amount for give shout outs to my players and drills occasionally here or there. So yeah, that's the best way to get me. Or if you have a website like seapinesgolfinstruction.com, you can find out some stuff there.
Yeah, if they want to book a lesson with you in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
You get on there now.
Yeah. Look ahead. I just turned off my online booking because people were booking too far out. So I haven't figured out my life 4 months from now, and I don't want a lesson booked in. So it's right. So it's all good.
That's awesome.
First class problem. Man.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate your friendship and always sharing. And I know I always learn something from you when we get together. So I can't thank you enough for everything, and keep up the great work, man. I really appreciate it. It's fun watching.
Well, Jason, you keep up the good work on these pods too. I've listened to, can't say all of them, but the vast majority, and I've really enjoyed it. And so you're doing a super job. Good work.
Thanks,
buddy. Keep it up, bud.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All the best. Cheers.
What's up, everyone? Guru back here again with just a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to Tim for coming on the show and sharing his incredible knowledge of coaching and life that I know will help you all become better coaches and just better human beings. Make sure to reach out to Tim on Instagram or Twitter at Tim Cooke Golf, and that's COOKE Golf, and give him a social wave. Say thank you. Also, you can follow me and reach me on the Twitter or Instagram at Golf Guru TV. Send me a message or let me know what your favorite part about this podcast was. What did you learn the most? I would love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM, and I will do my best to get back to you. Also, check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. There's lots of cool stuff, lots of presentations and workshops that could be valuable for you coaches out there. If you have a question or comment, you can email the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com, or like I said, hit me up on the DM, which is easy. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show were produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. Leave me an iTunes review or a rating. That would be cool. Leave me a 5-star review. That would be awesome. And I always leave you with the Jim Rome quote that I enjoy and I live my life by: study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you next time.